pleasure to be here to encourage the use of natural gas for the transportation sector. We've used natural gas for many things in the state of Pennsylvania. We've been a leader in it and actually discovering natural gas. So now it's time to not only use it, but expand its use to things that are what would be considered perhaps non-traditional uses of natural gas. So today's meeting is perhaps to one, introduce you, and then two, perhaps to help you to see how you might be able to use it in expanded ways, but to facilitate that use by utilizing some of the tools that are available to you through the programs that are available through the Department of Environmental Protection, which would be the Alternative Fuels Incentive Grant Program, specifically the AFIG program. We do know that not only have some of you who are here in this room been benefited by the Department of Environmental Protection programming because of their use of programs to incent the use of natural for the transportation use from the over 14,000 gross vehicle weight. But this particular program is for the under 14,000 gross vehicle weight vehicles. So we're hopeful that today's program is not just so that you'll just come out today and just be here for this time frame, but that you will utilize the opportunity to interface with the other individuals that you will meet here, so that you may find ways in which you can successfully submit an application to have an AFIG grant, if that would be your desire, to find out more about petroleum reduction technology, which we're going to see a video about right now, and then also to find out how it is that the natural gas company in this area, which is the People's Natural Gas Company, will be able to assist you in using natural gas for your fleet needs. There are those of you who are here also who have heard about a number of different non-traditional things that are being done here, not only with compressed natural gas, but also some of the other wet gas development that is going on in this area. But we want to impress upon you here today how you can use it for your fleet needs, for your pickup trucks, for your passenger vehicles or passenger vans. Perhaps there are step vans. There are other kinds of vehicles that are available and accessible to you to use through this particular program. And then give you a little bit of insight into how the later program that will happen in the summer for the over 14,000 gross vehicle weight program will be available to you. So we have experts who have come from the Department of Environmental Protection today in the persons of Margaret Hull and Mark Han, who are going to be discussing the specifics of the programs. And my job right now will be to start the video, and then I will do a brief presentation that will be specific to the People's Natural Gas Company.
There are many reasons to consider the use of natural gas as a transportation fuel. One of the primary advantages in using natural gas vehicles is that they produce fewer emissions than conventional gasoline vehicles. Because of this, natural gas buses are widely used in municipal and private fleets, especially in areas where central fueling stations are readily available. Also, 87% of natural gas is domestically produced in the U.S. Natural gas is the product of organic matter that has decomposed in the absence of oxygen. Biological matter that died millions of years ago became trapped beneath layers of ice, sand, and silt. As more layers were added, along with intense geothermal heat and pressure, natural gas was formed. Natural gas is odorless, tasteless, and non-toxic. Natural gas is colorless and may not be visibly detected unless ignited. However, once ignited, it will burn with a pale blue flame that is nearly invisible in daylight. Like coal and oil, natural gas is a fossil fuel. Unlike other fossil fuels, natural gas is a clean burning fuel and emits lower levels of harmful byproducts into the air. Natural gas is typically found in coal beds and oil fields, but can also occur naturally on its own. Natural gas has been used as a cooking and heating fuel for centuries. However, many people do not realize that it is also a viable domestic vehicle fuel. There are two forms in which natural gas is used as a fuel for vehicles: compressed natural gas, known as CNG, and liquefied natural gas, referred to as LNG. CNG is compressed and stored as a gas in high-pressure tanks which makes it a stable method of storage for containing natural gas over long periods of time. LNG is produced by cooling natural gas to a temperature below its boiling point, well below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. A liquid below this temperature is called a cryogenic, which means that it cannot and will not exist as a liquid at normal temperatures and pressures. It must be stored in double-walled, vacuum-insulated, low-pressure vessels called dewars. According to the Natural Gas Vehicle Coalition, there are about 112,000 natural gas vehicles on U.S. roads today, and more than 13 million worldwide. There are three types of natural gas vehicles: dedicated, biofuel, and dual fuel. Dedicated vehicles operate only on natural gas. Biofuel vehicles are designed with two separate fueling systems that allow them to operate on natural gas as well as conventional gasoline. Dual fuel vehicles are more common in the heavy-duty market. These engines use natural gas as the main fuel and up to 10% diesel for ignition. Many conventional vehicles may be legally converted to operate on natural gas instead of gasoline using EPA-approved conversion kits. Because of the differences in fuel storage from conventional vehicles, natural gas vehicles must have specialized tanks for storing fuel. Many of the natural gas vehicles on the roads today are found in large fleets, such as taxicabs, transit and school buses, airport shuttles, construction vehicles, garbage trucks, and public works vehicles, since these types of vehicles tend to have space and energy requirements that adequately accommodate the added tanks and LNG equipment. The majority of natural gas passenger vehicles operate on CNG. Presently, there are no light-duty passenger vehicles available that operate on LNG, which is more popular for heavy-duty fleets. There are also other benefits in expanding the use of natural gas to fuel vehicles for the betterment of human health and the environment, the economy, national energy security, and to help reduce the dependence on foreign oil. Compared with vehicles fueled by conventional gasoline or diesel, natural gas vehicles can produce significantly lower amounts of harmful emissions such as particulate matter, carbon monoxide, and greenhouse gases. These emissions have been linked to the formation of smog. Smog can create or irritate existing cases of asthma, emphysema, and bronchitis. Burning fossil fuels has contributed to environmental issues such as global warming, smog, and acid rain. When compared with conventional diesel vehicles, natural gas vehicles may emit significantly fewer emissions of carbon monoxide, oxides of nitrogen, and hydrocarbons. The use of natural gas as a vehicle fuel can also reduce carbon dioxide emissions by up to 25% when compared to diesel exhaust, which in turn will decrease the effects humanity has on global warming. Natural gas, however, is the cleanest of all hydrocarbon fuels and therefore offers substantial environmental benefits. Most of the natural gas used in the U.S. is produced domestically. In most places where CNG is sold as a vehicle fuel, it costs less than gasoline. In the U.S., natural gas is typically at least $1 less per gasoline gallon equivalent when compared to conventional gasoline. With a network of pipelines in place and the ability to use the existing distribution network, there are minimal additional costs to expand the use of natural gas in transportation. This helps lessen the financial burden many states may face in building the necessary fueling infrastructure. Natural gas is much less utilized than other hydrocarbon fuels, making it significantly cheaper than coal or oil. The use of natural gas as a transportation fuel could alleviate some of the nation's dependence upon foreign oil and encourage energy independence. Harvesting methane from biogas produced from landfills, dairy waste, algae, and agricultural organic matter is currently being performed in several locations across the country. There are more than 500 landfills in the U.S. that are currently using biogas as an energy source for electricity production, for use in boilers and furnaces, or for a vehicle fuel. Developments in natural gas production from waste materials help produce energy as well as nitrogen-rich fertilizer, creating use from previously wasted material.
We encourage you to learn more about alternative fuels and petroleum reduction technologies by visiting www.naftc.wvu.edu/Clean Cities Learning Program.
Basically, when you want to have natural gas for your fleet vehicle, whether it's for a pickup truck or for a tractor trailer or for a step van or for whatever it is that you want to use natural gas for, towboat or locomotive, the bottom line on all of this is that you need to be able to change the way in which you are putting the natural gas into that particular vehicle from it's a pressure issue. The pressure that you receive natural gas in your home, to use the burner tip analogy that we just had from the first slide there, to getting it into your vehicle, is from 7 inches water column up to 3,600 PSI for a vehicle. So when we talk about why is it a little bit more costly for you to have it for your fleet than it is for you to have it in your home, the reason is because of the equipment necessary to make that pressure gradient. So if we're talking about going from 7-inch water column to 3,600 PSI, that's a big jump, isn't it? So we have to have compression equipment available to be able to do that. So that's what all the hoopla is about. And to begin the process, when we talk about if we're going to refuel that vehicle that is capable of running on natural, we take a look at the location of your facility and we see where in our system you are physically located. So then we look at our system and we evaluate and see, can we deliver to you at the pressure that you will need the natural gas to be able to handle that load and that pressure to supply your needs for the volume of natural gas that you will need that will be comparable to the fuel that you need and use now to satisfy your needs, to go from point A to point B, or point A, B, C, D, E, F, and so forth and so on. So the information from you starts out with, what is it that you're going to do? How many vehicles do you have? What range are you going to cover? How much fuel will you need? How often are you going to be running? All of these questions are to get to the bottom line to tell me how much fuel you're going to actually need. And strangely enough, for those of you who are looking at submitting an application to the Alternative Fuels Incentive Grant Program, similarly, questions like this are asked. They want to know, how many miles are you traveling? How much fuel will you need to use? So these are the kinds of things that are of concern. So when I'm looking at a system, and we are privileged today to have with us experts in this area who do refueling stations that actually work with you, those of you who are converting vehicles to run on natural gas, to be able to say, okay, I'm going to be able to put this natural gas into your vehicle to refuel you just like you would if you were running on diesel or on gasoline. So, and when they ask those questions and want to know how often are you going to have to refuel, then you have to be able to answer those questions. Well, I have my guys come back, they come back and refuel a couple of times a day, or either I have everyone go out and do what they have to do in the course of the day, and then they refuel all overnight. They can stay at rest overnight, and it will be a timeful application versus I need them coming back and forth during the course of the day and refueling. So those are the kinds of things that when you give that information, then I put it on what we call a gas application. It goes into our planning department, and then from that we evaluate if our system can satisfy it. If our system cannot satisfy your need, we will need to do some type of an upgrade to make that possible. And this is where it gets a little sticky. Okay, so you're going to hear all the information today. You can go back and you can say, yeah, Tish Clipper said this in the meeting, okay? But this is what happens. We do an economic analysis of what you are providing as far as information on the amount of the volume. and I look at this and I determine if in fact the volume that you're going to use is going to be justified by the revenue that I am going to have from the amount of fuel that you will use for the extra, what I call system betterment, or the improvement of my system, extension of my mainline facilities to be able to satisfy your needs, whatever that will be. Just like if it was a residential lot plan and there was no natural gas line in that vicinity and you wanted to build a plan of homes and there needed to be an extension of the main line. So I would look at that and I would do an economic analysis to see if I extended my main line, how much it would cost me to extend it, how many homes were going to be placed there, how much load was going to be generated from that, and if my extension could be covered by the amount of revenue that would be generated from the actual extension of that facility to you. So in most cases with a natural gas refueling facility and usage for your fleet of vehicles, it is usually pretty good because the amount of revenue that will be generated from that is usually about, for one vehicle perhaps, the equivalent of adding on maybe 6 or 7, possibly 8 homes because of the amount of fuel that would be used for a vehicle. And the reason for that is because of the amount of natural gas that goes into a vehicle and how that relates to, with our efficient homes that we're building today, how much equivalent usage of energy is required. But the beauty of this, and especially right here where we are in Pennsylvania, is that the price of natural gas makes it a wonderful thing. And how many of you caught the amount of savings per equivalent gallon there would be for natural gas versus a competing fuel like gasoline or diesel? Does anyone remember what it said on the movie? About $1? Any other answers?
25%.
Okay, 25%. Okay, we're going percentages, or $1. Okay, well, about an average in some cases of $2 or $2.25 per gallon gas equivalent savings, which is pretty decent. And when you look at that and you think about if you're going to go, and I shared this with someone in another meeting, that when I drove from Pittsburgh to Penn State for a meeting that I had, I filled my car up, and Rick is my witness, it was like $8.15. This was a Honda GX, the one that you're going to be able to ride in today if you'd like to take a look at a natural gas vehicle or ride around in it and try it. How many of you could fill your car if you drove from Pittsburgh to Penn State for $8.15? That's because he has a natural gas vehicle. So Paul has a natural gas vehicle.
I can't fill my Harley for $8.
Wait a minute, you have gas on your property, don't tell me you can't do that for that.
Okay, so, this is what we're talking about here. Why are we continuing to use gasoline and diesel if we have this clean, abundant, reliable, cost-effective natural gas? We should be running to figure out how we could do it. And if we have a program like we're going to hear about today from a representative of the DEP to figure out how we can make it happen, even if we didn't have a program, there have been people who have already started doing this that have said it's cost-effective for us to actually try to do this because we're going to save so much to be able to use natural gas for our fuel instead of using gasoline or diesel, and especially diesel with the price spikes that we've seen. And even when the pricing for gasoline, when it came down during the course of this past year, it still could not compete. So, and a lot of people now, I get this in meetings, oh, Tish, but you know that the price of gas is not going to stay where it is. It's going to keep creeping up. If the price of gas, natural gas, doubled from where it is right now, looking at the cost per therm, you are still going to be under the savings. You're still going to save at least $1.50 and possibly still get close to the $2 range. Why? Because the gasoline is going to be, ridiculously priced. And just when you think that you're lulled into feeling comfortable when that gasoline price is making you feel like it's dropped to $3.49 or $3.57 a gallon, and the next week it's going to be back up to $3.69, $3.70, $3.75, and diesel $4.10, $4.15, $4.25. And you're going to be like, oh, here I am again. And then the beauty of the natural gas pricing is that we'll be able to give you stability. We will give you a contracted price so that we can offer you budget capability to give you stability in your pricing and allow you to go for a longer period of time so that you're not figuring out, okay, I can only do a spot price and I'm stuck here. I'm held hostage. So, the part of my presentation that I wanted to convey to you today, after seeing that beautiful video that gave all of the information on telling you why we should use natural gas as a transportation fuel, how it is important for us to use today, the impact of it environmentally, how good it is for us to make this decision today, is that we can get results. We can get important results for you personally, for your fleet, for your home, for your community, for our economy. So let's utilize all of our tools and our resources today to use natural gas. Thank you.
So I guess basically what I'm going to do to start with here is the question that always came was the chicken or the egg. Which is important? Is it the vehicles or is it the fill station? Well, I can tell you right now it's a fill station because you can see all the vehicles out there. They're already here. They've been in Southern California, they've been in Oklahoma, they've been in Florida, they've been in Utah, they've been in, you name it. The vehicles are already out there. The manufacturers have made commitments to building these vehicles, and there's one out there from Stuckey Ford, which is right here in Hollidaysburg. There was also another individual who was going to try to bring their Chevy down. It's Ziegler's out in Claysburg.
Bob has his here.
Excuse me?
Bob has a GM version here.
Yeah. And then Dix Honda State College has a Hondas available. So to me, the point is it's a fill station. So number one, the question that most people ask, show me the money. Well, I'll give you just a little quick synopsis of even just a very primitive type of compressor. And it would be slightly larger than that garbage can sitting over in the corner. Now that compressor has a life of typically about 7,000 hours before it needs a rebuild. Now that rebuild on it is approximately only $1,500. But out of that 7,000 hours, you can get 28,000 gallons of gas gallon equivalent of natural gas. With that, at $3.50, that is almost $100,000 worth of fuel. So if you paid $1.26 even in your own home at a residential rate, it's going to cost you about $40,000. So you're going to save almost $60,000 on that fuel that that small residential or small commercial type compressor is going to produce for you. So to me, that's a significant number. That compressor would produce about 40 gallons a day. If you're a vendor, you have a couple trucks that you're running, whatever type of distribution. So, as far as that, it's definitely available. There's small compressors that you can put residential, or there's large compressors, which there's ones going on in many areas. And then there's individuals from Canada. Their compressors up there, I think, are 350 horsepower compressors. They're producing, I believe, almost 5,000 gas gallon equivalent per day at that facility. Natural gas Peoples have one in Altoona here. They have 7 different compressor stations at their locations. They've had them for decades. Penn State University has 200 vehicles on campus that they run. 100 of them run on compressed natural gas. They have a compressor that was put in the 90s up there. Right next door here, Galactic Ice. It has a small compressor. They fuel their Zamboni to do their ice surface. So, people would typically think, well, natural gas, this is new. It isn't. It's not new as a transportation fuel. There's 2 differences between now and back in the late 80s and early 90s natural gas compressed vehicles. The major component is the price of natural gas. In Pennsylvania, we're sitting on the 2nd largest natural gas supply in the world. Gas is about 1/3 what the cost was back in the early 80s. The second thing is the vehicle technology. And I'll just, to prove this point, with the electronic control modules on the vehicles now, they understand exactly what they're operating. With the injector systems, they can put in the exact amount of fuel that's needed when necessary. So you don't have overheating, you don't have, back in the old days when they had what are called fumigation systems, is where you would just draw the natural gas in through the air intake. Cylinder 1 didn't know what cylinder 8 was getting. With the injector systems now, it's operated very efficiently. So your engine, because natural gas runs on different compression ratios, it burns hotter than gasoline, things like that, your engines have the ability to understand what they're running. So as far as the technology and natural gas supply, I mean, it's just, there's no reason not to use it. And if you can look at Canada out here, they've been using it for decades. Commodity costs. in a MCF or therm, you can get approximately 7.14 gas gallon equivalent out of 1 MCF. So when you calculate costs, if you buy like through Peoples or you buy through a commodity broker or something, your commodity cost can be as low as 50 cents a gallon. They can even be less than it, depending on the volume that you're buying. So really the majority of the cost is in compression. So when you talk about small compressors or large compressors, that's where you get into time fill applications or you get into fast fill applications. If all you need is a compressor to fill your car or your distribution van or 2 vans or whatever, the size of that garbage can, an example is the Clearfield Senior Service up in Clearfield. They bought, I think they have 11 Ford Transits now. They have 2 compressors that are basically that size, and they're fueling those vans, and they use them for their Meals on Wheels program. So they're paying approximately $1, I think it was $1.30 a gallon. That's what their costs were. And when we spoke with them, they said when gasoline went to $4 a gallon, they thought they were going to have to cut their Meals on Wheels program back to 2 days a week. So it's been very, very effective for them. So those costs, and what they do is a time fill. So they have what are called fill posts, which are basically just pipes with hoses. You pull your vehicle in and you plug them in. You saw it in that video earlier. It's basically just like a slip joint air fit that you slide on it. Now, with the time fill, it's less expensive because you don't have the cost of storage. And the storage is where the cost is, whether it's on a vehicle or on a compressor station. Just one tube, a sphere, or a tube for a compressor. If you drive down through People's Natural Gas Station, Altoona, it's right beside the Easterly sanitation facility down there. You'll see these big long white tubes. A new tube at 26 feet long is going to cost around $30,000. So you need that for your fast fill systems, where your storage on a time fill is basically the cylinder on the vehicle. So when you can pull in and have a time fill, it's much more efficient. Also, well, I'll say cost effective, but also you can get what's called a fuller fill too. Because when you're filling over time, when you compress gas, it creates heat, so it expands. So when you're doing a time fill and you have that opportunity to time fill, you get more of a full fill. So there's advantages to that. Now, as far as what we do, we've coordinated the construction of a fill station, which we're in the very last stages, because everybody that is working with one of these and working in a municipality or area that doesn't know what natural gas is a learning curve. So we basically have to take people through the steps and help them understand what natural gas is. Because the first question is, I'm driving around with a bomb. Okay? Well, the combustion ratio of natural gas is very limited compared to a lot of other vehicles. You either have too much natural gas and it will explode, or you don't have enough. There's too much oxygen involved. So it's really much safer than gasoline, because gasoline vapors, as everybody knows, is what explodes. Natural gas just dissipates immediately. There's other transportation fuels like propane. Now propane, a little bit more expensive than natural gas, a little less for the upfit, but over time you'll save more than natural gas. But propane pockets. So if you had a leak of propane, it could be sitting right there on the floor, and you wouldn't know it, and if you would walk by and somehow happen to ignite it, it will explode, where natural gas dissipates. So natural gas is very safe. As far as the fill stations, because we get questions about putting berms around them and things like that, there's no groundwater contamination. It dissipates. So it's really much safer for the environment and things like that. So as far as the vehicle technologies and what we do, we have a vehicle here, and if you want to get some of these flyers up here, this is a green craft truck. This truck is basically an Isuzu truck. We get this brought in from Southern California. It's actually constructed in a facility that builds Isuzu trucks for Africa and South America. And they bring this cabin chassis to Southern California. They put a 6-liter General Motors engine and transmission in this, and it is dedicated natural gas. We can supply these throughout the state of Pennsylvania. We can get these anywhere from 14,500 GVW to 26,000 GVW. So we have those available. You can put whatever configuration well on it. Dump bed, a box van, just a regular stake body, whatever you choose to do on that. That pretty much covers all the everything that your day-to-day Isuzu does. So it's basically the same format. We also have an excellent relationship with a local company here that does truck building. And they are working with us to do some heavy-duty trucks, and we have a few contracted already to convert to dual fuel. Now, you saw earlier in the presentation there with dual fuel, basically, you know, I'm not sure how elaborate it really went into it. But dual fuel is where you have a diesel truck, and you inject natural gas into it. Now, your computer interface that you put in reads the requirements of the engine through their ECM, so it injects natural gas into the engine, and then you can reduce your diesel usage from anywhere from 50 to even 60, 65%. Now, being able to read the diagnostics of the truck, you're not going to overheat or anything like that. We had a truck in here in November. We had drivers from local areas, or local hauling companies, run it up over Crescent Mountain, up over the Continental Divide. Nobody could tell the difference. So we have a couple of those contracted. The company that we're working with has an R tag, which means that they can build trucks. That means that if we need to, I don't want to get too complicated here, but EPA approval, there's a difference between EPA certification and EPA approval. EPA approval says that any vehicle with 400 and I think it's 25,000 miles or more, all you need is an approval for that engine. So you can take a truck that is basically, it's 2010 emission standards, and you can put natural gas on that with an approved system. So when you can inject that natural gas in, then obviously we're reducing the numbers that we worked. It costs 77 cents a mile to run a heavy-duty diesel truck. A dual fuel system can save anywhere between 16 to 22 cents a mile for that haul. And your rate of return is very quick here. And anywhere, you know, I look more per mile, but other people, you know, as far as time period. But if you're running say basically 100,000 miles a year, which isn't uncommon for Class A or Class 8 truck, you're looking about 16 months for that rate of return. Now, obviously, on cost on anything, as I said earlier, it's the storage. Storage is where the cost is. So how much fuel do I need? So when you're putting your system together, you want to be very accurate on how much fuel and how much range you need. So if you have you may be able to get away with 10 gallons a day. And you can buy basically a Type 1 CNG cylinder that'll hold basically a 10 gas gallon equivalent for anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500. Or if you want 25 gallons, or you can look at that Ford truck out there, it has an 18-gallon tank. The upfit on that is a Westport system that comes right to the manufacturer, or to the distributor, which is Stuckey Ford dealer. It's a $9,000 upcharge for that. Now that is a Type 3, or I'm sorry, a Type 4 CNG tank. Now I just had some discussions with a company that we work with out in California. They have now produced and certified a Type 3 tank that's going to be able to hold 4,200 PSI instead of just a 3,600 PSI. So that helps you get a little bit more fuel on board if you need it. You know, control the cost a little bit better. Now there is also supposed to be a Type 5 tank that's coming out. 3M is offering that. But you know, not to get rambling here too much, but I find that any vehicle that gets 15 mile per gallon or less and drives approximately 20,000 miles a year, you can get a rate of return on the investment on that in about 15 months. So, you know, if you're running a business here, and I just talked to a company the other day, they distribute medical supplies. They're running 20,000 miles a year, and they're servicing 5 counties. And that's what brings me right back to Blair County and why we need our fill station in Blair County. You know, as old as Altoona is, which is pretty old, it was a railroad hub. It still is a hub. And there's a lot of distribution that comes through here from Pittsburgh, and from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg, and from the Turnpike in Bedford to the other end of the I-99 corridor and to Route 80. So there's a lot of distribution here. And if you look in even the interchange out in the Duncansville area where we're putting our station, they've constructed and almost tripled the size of the FedEx distribution center. There's Value Drug, it just built a brand new facility out there. There's another company, or actually 2 companies are under construction right now out there. So this running the turnpike now has become a little bit expensive, and some of these companies are actually setting up distribution hubs in the Altoona area to run from here to Pittsburgh, from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg, instead of running straight across the southern corridor. But, you know, if there's any questions that anybody has here, I mean, I could go on for hours, you know, on technology and compression, and as Tish laughs. But, you know, there's a lot to know, but I wanted to just try to break it down at the point we're at now with the grants that you're going to see here, the tax credits. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim Frank just came in here. I appreciate Jim showing up. He's representing Congressman Schuster here today, and I spoke with Congressman Schuster at his invitation, which I really appreciated, about a month ago. And Congressman Schuster asked me, what's the most important thing that I can do to help facilitate the use of compressed natural gas? And the point that I made was 50 cent per gallon tax credit. So as long as we can keep that 50 cent per gallon tax credit, which actually I think went in 2005 and has been replaced every year since, sometimes not always on time, but that's a real aid for the use of compressed natural gas or liquefied, you know, whatever. It's the alternative fuel tax credit. That's always very, very important component for us. So we have an individual in-house that does grant writing for us. We just secured a $365,000 grant for a hauler that is converting, buying multiple trucks, and we're putting a station in for him. And you know, there's definitely opportunities there through the state, through the federal government, things like that. So, is there any questions that anybody has here? I'll try to answer as best I can. Yes, sir.
Your firm actually would, if I would want to convert it, you actually bring in the compressor and
Yes.
set up a facility?
Right, right. We can put fill stations in, whether they're small compressors that are just, you know, basically in your garage or, you know, 1 or 2 vehicles, or larger systems. We also are certified for doing 3 different systems for light duty trucks, and then the relationship we have with this other company for heavy duty trucks. So.
It's always interesting to know who's here, and I'm always appreciative to Rick Price from PRCC and from Tisha, Dr. Clifford, who's fun to work with, and to Aaron as well for this event. How many of you, by the way, have ever been to a meeting in the men's locker room before? Why don't we start over here? If you could give us your name and who you're with.
I'm Charlie Fisher. I'm the fleet manager with Balfour Incorporated. We rent linen supplies.
I'm Scott Singer. We have about 13 step bands.
Oh, okay.
I'm Bob Singer, same company. Next.
You should say I'm with them. I do the same thing.
I'm Mark Handa. Work for DEP in the South Central region, covered from Blair to through Harrisburg, Reading area. We should have projects that way.
You've already met me. I'm Letitia Tish Clipper from People's Gas.
I'm Tom Bach, based out of Kittanning, an independent oil and gas producer. Familiar with the DEP, so hopefully I get some good information today.
Michelle Ivory with Senator John Eichelberger's office.
Welcome.
Sue Boland, Director of Development, Georgia Republic. We're a large residential treatment facility for youth and have a large fleet of vehicles.
Jesse Beatty, O-Ring CNG Fuel Systems with Bobby.
I'm Bob Beatty with O-Ring CNG Fuel Systems. We build natural gas fueling stations, and we also own a few north of here.
Gary Bukowski, I worked with Bob and Jesse.
George Ringeisen from the Kansas Township Sanitary Authority looking into this.
He's really looking into it. This is like the 3rd event he's been doing CNG, so, you know, there's great opportunity in municipalities. There's over 2,600 municipalities in the state, and believe me, when Aaron talked about dealing with the municipalities, imagine trying to get 2,600 building inspectors in line with all these technologies that are all new. So it can slow down the process when you're installing these things if you don't have your building inspectors online.
I'm Dawson Hoffman. I'm here with Consol Energy. Gathering some information.
I'm Tim Longwell, and with the Copeland Associates, I'm the grant writer.
I'm Amanda from John University.
Jim Frank, District Director for Congressman Schuster. My name's Ed Engelhardt. I'm the manager of Highland Sewer and Water outside of Johnstown.
I'm John Rogers, and I'm here with Fulton Bank, and we're interested in I'm Cliff Rupp, I'm from S&K Bets.
Jim Shaw from S&K Bets. We represent Hampton's waterless engine cooler. It lets engines run at a higher temperature. It falls at 375 degrees, so it helps with the engine and conversion, stops anything from overheating.
Lou McCartney, independent operator for Splendid Bakeries.
Ted Exley, I'm a gas producer and installing a CNG station. Texas 16.
Ron Yoder, AR Natural Gas Fueling Systems. And let Aaron talk a little. We know everything about natural gas.
Troy Kiefer, A&R Fueling Systems.
Hi, I'm Frank Yesh with a company called Worldtech out of Pittsburgh. We've been in the natural gas maintenance facility safety conversions for the last 18 years.
I'm Barry Gibbs. I am a small business owner that has an interest in the topic. That's why.
And you've met Aaron?
Yeah.
Lewis Moore, I'm the sales manager for TriStar Auto Group throughout the Pittsburgh region.
My name is Dave Spear. I'm with CNG Forward, which is a Pittsburgh-based company working on technology to improve some of the bottlenecks that were mentioned.
Dave Hill with Penn Power Group. We have shops throughout the whole state of Pennsylvania. We market, install, and service dual fuel systems. We're into the heavy-duty market right now and hope to move into the medium and light-duty market also.
I especially want to hear from the back row. They were here early, so they got the best seats.
I'm Don Luis. I'm with Amtran, the local bus company here in Altoona.
And I'd like to thank them for bringing one of their diesel hybrid buses, and I'll tell you a little bit about the other technologies when I speak. Thank you.
Dale Holland, I drove that hybrid car.
Union.
Yeah.
I'm Carl Hampton from Cadden State College, where we operate roughly 60 natural gas buses.